New Year, everyone. I read Caste, The Origin of Our Discontents by Isabel Wilkerson, and I want to talk about it today. I first heard about this book when Isabel did a interview on NPR where she shared a story that is also recounted in the book about a story she was pursuing while she was working for the New York Times in Chicago, where she was talking to a bunch of the retailers on Miracle Mile there, and she had scheduled an interview with one of the managers at one of the stores. And so she gets there, a manager's not there yet. I can't talk with you right now. I'm here to talk to a reporter and I'm very busy. We'll have to talk later. And she says, oh, I think I'm your appointment. I'm Isabel Wilkerson from the New York Times. I'm here to talk to you. And that's where it gets weird, because the manager can't accept that she is who she is. And she reasons in her recounting of the story that it just doesn't fit with his worldview that a black woman would be working for the Times and would be the person that he was expecting to talk to. And so it gets weirder, where he asks her for a business card, but she's run out of them. He asks her for identification, and after she hands over her driver's license, which says Isabel Wilkerson, he still can't accept it. And so, she ends up not getting the interview. She says that she had talked to other managers, and so she had enough material for the story. And then, in what's kind of heartbreaking, she says that she didn't tell her editors because she can't let them know that this is going to be a problem, that she can't get sources to talk to her, some sources to talk to her, because she's black. And so it really illustrates both the sort of hidden problem of caste in our society and also the double bind that it puts black people in, where they can't, where they're stuck in a kind of an impossible situation. So I should back up and say sort of what this book is about overall. It's about two intertwining systems, racism and caste. So if racism is how we view different groups of people based on their lineage and skin color, caste is like an interlocking system that says, and it works on multiple levels in terms of personal belief, in terms of law, in terms of many different levels. Caste is a sort of rigid hierarchy which puts these different groups in a specific order of the social ladder. And in America, what we've seen from the years of slavery and continuing on even to this day is that there's this hierarchy which puts this fabricated category of white at the top and puts black people at the bottom. And in between, you have kind of a sort of messy middle where other ethnic and minority groups fit. But caste is really about how that social stratification works, how it corrupts interpersonal relationships, and how it ruins people's lives, really. So at its, what this book will do, it will sort of illuminate for you how caste operates. And she does this both by taking the reader through stories of how caste works. She also compares caste systems in the United States, in India, and in Nazi Germany. One of the most shocking moments of reading this book was as she's recounting how the Nazis began their campaign to criminalize and ultimately commit genocide against the Jews in Germany and Europe. She talks about how they studied the slavery institutions of the United States, and they studied the Jim Crow laws that came about after abolition, and were sort of cherry picking what they could reasonably enact in Europe with their rise to power. And heartbreakingly, they looked at some of the Jim Crow era laws and said, that's something we can't do here. That's just too extreme. We couldn't possibly carry that off. And just thinking about how America's history and our social institutions were too far gone for the Nazis to adopt. I mean, that's just, it really hits home that we have a problem, that the problem is deeply etched into our history and our culture. And, one of the ways that we start to unwrap that problem and take a look at it and try to solve it is by understanding how it works. So there's a section in this book which I found really helpful, which was I believe it's the 8 pillars of caste. Let me just check. There might have been more. Where she breaks down kind of how caste operates. Yeah, there's 8. And it she goes into sort of laws that were enacted to reinforce the boundaries of caste. She goes into cultural practices. She goes into beliefs. And that's, I think, the most systematic coverage of the topic that I've ever read. So that's like a great way to study up. I will say that this can be a difficult read because some of the stories that she recounts are so horrific and painful. So that's something to keep in mind, kind of where you're at as a reader, what you're looking for. It takes kind of a thick skin to wade through those stories. I will also say that, one of those stories, one of the highlights actually throughout the book are these personal stories from her own life, and often they're related to travel because she was flying around and talking to people because she's a reporter. On one of those occasions, she arrives in the airport, I believe it was Chicago, and she's, going to go do some stories. And these 2 people start following her, and she's going to get on a bus. They hold her up and say, "Hold on, we need to talk to you. We're DEA agents." And she's just mystified, right? That she is the target for that type of action. People on the bus are like, "Come on, lady, you're holding us up," and it's a whole scene. But so the DEA agents get on the bus with her, and everyone's treating her like a pariah, like, what the hell is going on here? And she feels so disempowered and just done in by this. But then she finds a way to turn the tables. So she goes to her reporter's toolkit and she starts observing the DEA agents. She starts writing down, what do they look like? How are they watching her? All of that. And that scrutiny on the agent starts to make them very uncomfortable. So at the end of the bus ride, they leave and the episode is over. There's a hangover for her because it's kind of ruined her mindset for the day. But it illustrates kind of one of those personal stories that gets to kind of how all of this operates. What else do I want to say about caste? It is not a manual for organizing or kind of a place where you would go to think about next steps and actions you can take to dismantle caste in America. I mean, it really is an examination of the institution, or the system rather, but it's not a playbook for activism. So I think it's an important read. It'll illuminate a lot of what happens and why in American society. But it might leave you wanting more in terms of, okay, so what's next? So that's something I would note. I would also say that I really enjoy books that expose how hidden forces around us shape our worlds. They shape our opportunities, they shape our beliefs, and they shape how we participate in the world. And so now that I've read this, I will have, much wider open eyes in terms of looking at how caste works in America. And so I appreciate that a lot about this book. So yeah, I think that's all I wanted to say. Caste, The Origin of Our Discontents by Isabel Wilkerson. If you do want to join the conversation, find BookSwell Club, tag us, comment. I'd love to hear, if you've read Caste, I'd love to hear what you think of it and to continue the conversation. So that's all for today. Thanks, folks. Talk to you soon.